Welcome to VCR, Vintage Cinema Rewind. We're bringing old movies to new viewers. I'm Blake.
This movie still isn't for you, so I don't know.
Pierrot le Fou.
I don't know what the heck you're doing here.
Yeah.
Look what the effing cat dragged in.
My name is Ferdinand, damn it.
Yeah, exactly.
Still Ferdinand. Yeah, no, we talked about this on the primer episode. This is our deep dive where we're going to go spoiler free into Pierrot le Fou, a movie that Jean-Luc Goddard and Anna Karina collaborated on back in the 60s that, again, is a movie that's really tough to crack, and it should not be your first Jean-Luc Goddard movie. There's actually a third movie that they made together, and let me see if I can pull it up. Band Apart or Band of Outsiders. Apparently it's like one of Jean-Luc Godard's more accessible movies. It also stars Anna Karina, and I considered us doing that one instead of this, and kind of settle on this one because it kind of appealed to me ever so slightly more. But apparently Band of Outsiders is like one of the main inspirations behind Reservoir Dogs.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. Coolsies.
So I guess, point blank, like, we've watched two Anna Karina Jean-Luc Godard movies at this point. Like, are you interested enough to go and watch another one of their movies, do you think?
I think I would be, yeah.
I'm actually kind of thinking about actively seeking out a couple more of theirs, because there's something here.
There's something there. I would definitely watch it with you.
That's kind of where I wanted to, like, start this conversation, because, again, this is not the most accessible movie. Like, again, if you're into, like, sci-fi, Alphaville is much better. Apparently, Band Apart it's kind of a comedy, I think. It's a lot more accessible. It's something that, there's some familiarity if you're a Quentin Tarantino guy.
There's a point of comparison. You have a way into the story.
Yeah.
Again, this one is your only point of comparison is your shitty relationships in college. So here we go.
So on that note, where do you want to start then?
Yeah, I don't even really know. I guess like we have to start with the two main characters themselves.
Yeah, sure.
Ferdinand and Marianne. Like, you kind of, like, you don't condone it, but you kind of get the attraction.
Mm-hmm.
You can kind of understand why Ferdinand is very clearly unsatisfied in his life.
Yeah.
We only get one exchange with his wife, and she's just kind of admonishing him for not having a job, which, hey, fair enough, right?
Yeah, right. Like, he's probably like 40-ish.
40-ish.
He's got some young kids, clearly like a little bit depressed.
Not interested in his wife all
Yeah.
that much.
Mm-hmm.
Then, he meets this younger, beautiful woman who he has some kind of a romantic history with. And when she says, like, let's just drive off, he's kind of like, yeah, screw it. So drives off, right? I don't know. Like, the way these two kind of, like, needle each other and, like, the push and pull of their relationship and how, like, casually cruel they can be to each other. Yeah. Like, at one point she reads like a dumb little poem to him, and he's just like, oh, you bore me to death. And I'm like, honestly, yeah. Like, it's kind of like, well, I mean, like, what else could possibly be binding you two together?
Right.
Except, like, sex and toxicity.
I think that's almost like one of the main themes of the movie, right? Like, there's a point in time where Marianne they're on the beach together. They're kind of like living this nomadic lifestyle, but they've kind of settled down on this island.
Beautiful island, by the way.
Yeah.
If I were fleeing the authorities and had faked my death, that's where you'd find me.
Yeah, it's gorgeous. And there's kind of like these old buildings that have kind of just gone into disrepair, that nobody's living there, and they kind of just take up residence there. And
they're squatting.
Yeah, they're
squatters' rights.
And they're just fishing and writing and enjoying the time. I think Marianne goes into town every once in a while and brings them back books and food to kind of live off of. There's a point in time where Marianne's frustrations just kind of like boil over, and she's like, says to him, like, I don't think we're compatible, almost. Like,
well,
like there's nothing serious about our relationship.
Yeah, and he doesn't even really disagree.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we've all kind of been in similar situations where there's someone you're really attracted to, but then when you actually look them in the eyes and start talking to them, you're like, oh.
Yeah, there's just nothing here between. We can't have a serious conversation.
Right, because, like, she's, like, I think at one point, she's so bored and so frustrated that she's kind of just, like, she basically says something to the effect of, like, let's just go commit some crimes.
Yeah.
And he's kind of like, well, all right.
Well, I guess we won't pay for some shrimp.
Yeah, fair enough, right? But yeah, like, he kind of just wants to read and write and do his thing, and she wants to commit all sorts of crimes.
Yeah, like, she has this wild streak to her.
Yeah, she almost kind of, and maybe this is insensitive of me to say this, She almost kind of reads as having like maybe some kind of like a borderline personality.
Kind of speaking to her a little bit. I found it really interesting how the movie kind of frames, when they first run away together, they go back to her apartment and they're kind of, like madly in love with each other and kind of in this like very like passionate relationship in this apartment that they're in together. But while they're in there, they're kind of like, having this loving relationship, and the camera kind of pans over and there's a dead guy.
Oh, I forgot about the dead guy.
Yeah, with the scissors in the back of his head.
Right.
And you're kind of like, oh, like that's really starkly contrasting with like their relationship and what's happening here. And you're kind of like, how did this happen? Like there's a brief moment in my brain where I was like, oh, is this like an art piece? Because it's like, like this.
Yeah, she's kind of got like some artistic shit scattered through.
Yeah, but there's also like weapons about, and you're like,
yeah.
well, like there's like a lot of high contrast in this movie, like to what's going on versus
juxtapositions.
What's around. Yeah, and like their relationship, there's kind of like this Hollywood aspect to their relationship, but then it's contrasted with the realities of what's going on around them. There was kind of a point in time where I was like, what happened to this person, And then later on in the movie, when she's confronted by the people who, I think her ex-boyfriend who was murdered, and the people who are running guns and drugs.
Yeah, they're like a some kind of, they're just bad guys.
Yeah.
Some kind of bad dudes.
Yeah, it was some sort of, I think they were like called OAS or something like that. It was some group that was running guns between there and like Iran or something like that, or Israel or something.
Yeah.
There was kind of a bit of a historical aspect in the 60s to that, which I don't think was necessary to understanding the plot of the movie.
No,
but I
you
kind of
just
at it quickly.
You just kind of look at them and like, I guess they're.
Yeah,
you're just kind of like, they're the bad guys.
Yeah,
TM.
exactly,
right?
exactly. So... And then later on in the movie, when that catches up with them, and she ends up murdering the little person who's part of the gang, right? And it's again the same thing. He's got the scissors in the back of his head. You're like, oh, she is the one who killed the other guy, and it kind of dawns on you like, oh wow, like she's genuinely okay with murder.
Oh yeah, no, like even in the beginning when they first are driving off, she convinces him to like steal gas from a gas station,
right?
And it's kind of like she's like, hey, I learned this from Laurel and Hardy, and
yeah.
They kind of like play it off as like kind of a bit, but you're kind of just like, oh, she's kind of nuts.
Yeah.
Like she doesn't care if she lives or dies.
Yeah.
She doesn't care who lives or dies around her.
I just want to call out that scene separately as well, like as being somewhat hilarious. Like the fight that goes on between the two gas attendants is really comical.
Yeah, it's hilarious.
And it's played off like that, but again, on rewatch, it might be a little bit darker.
You're just like, ugh.
I really loved the scene where they go and steal the next vehicle. And so it's at this like, this auto body shop, and there's these couple that pull in to presumably get like an oil change or something like that, and they lift this car up, and these two will kind of begin the heist of this car, right? And so there's this like really like high dynamic like thriller kind of music playing, and it's kind of playing up like in their heads like how like how cool they are in the scene. And then the music will like hard stop like during the scene, and it kind of is like this juxtaposition between like what they see this crime as and the reality of what they're doing right now.
Yeah, and I mean, like going back to what's his butt, Ferdinand, like I made a joke that this is like Ferdinand's midlife crisis, and like, yeah, that's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
Right? Like he's clearly in a low point in his life. He's clearly unsatisfied with his relationship with his wife. Mm-hmm. But instead of dealing with it like an adult, he's just like, I'm just going to run off with this hot girl and cause all kinds of mayhem, right?
Yeah.
So, I don't know. It's funny. Like, Ferdinand kind of comes off as like depressed, but like, I think maybe there is something there, but I think when you get right down to it, he's just kind of selfish.
Yeah.
Like, aside from abandoning his family, he's just kind of like, he doesn't really seem all that concerned with the collateral damage he's causing.
There's also something to say about like him being self-destructive as well.
Yeah, and like more on that later.
I mean, we can talk about it right now. Like there's one particular moment in time that I kind of like checked that, right?
I might be thinking of a different moment.
Okay, because there's one point like early on in the movie when they ditch the car because there's another accident that they ditch it by, and they decide to burn the car. And as the car is on fire, as they're standing there, Ferdinand goes, oh yeah, by the way, all the money that you were looking for in the apartment is in the car right now.
Right, yeah. He just torched his whole savings, right?
Yeah, all the money that they stole, right? And she's so mad at him at this point because she's like, we could have lived off of that, right? And again, it's that self-sabotaging nature that he has.
Yeah, there's always money in a banana stand, but he almost, to me, he just kind of comes across as like almost nihilistically bored.
Yeah.
Like he's just kind of causing trouble to see what'll happen because he's just so bored, right?
Right.
Even his suicide at the end, like, spoiler alert, when, by the way, that's a way to go, right? Just wrapping dynamite around his head.
I kind of loved it.
I kind of did too,
like,
right?
I guess we'll get to like the whole details about it, but there's something like so darkly comedic about this guy wrapping all of this dynamite around his head and then being like, oh, what am I doing?
Yeah.
After he's lit the fuse.
Yeah.
And then not being able to put the fuse out.
Yeah.
And the film literally ends with him exploding on the cliff top.
And it's kind of like it cuts to a wide shot. So
Yeah.
you're just like, wow, like, he's dead.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, by that point, he's taken his revenge on Marianne and killed her.
Yeah.
And then he kind of just like, well, can't live without her, so.
Well, that's actually one of the things, and this gets into like some of the impenetrableness of this movie, because I really got lost in that third act as to like, because she kept being like, oh, let's go see my brother Fred, and we need to get to Fred because Fred has all this money and like he'll take care of us and all of this and that. And as it turns out, Fred is actually her real lover, and her and Fred are going to run off together. But that part was obvious to me, but I kind of got lost in like the shootout kind of between Ferdinand and Fred and Marianne. Like I kind of got lost as to like what was going on, and like what that fight scene was about, and like who they were fighting. And
even to me, it's like, wait, like, did she betray him? Like, did he betray her? Like, is he looking for her? Is she looking for him? And like, he just kind of wanders around without her for a bit, and I'm like, where are you going, bro? Like, what are we doing here?
Well, and because she also, once she meets up with Fred, she kind of ditches him, right?
Yeah,
and, like,
also that too.
That was the part where I was really starting to get confused in my brain as to like, okay, like I get that she has kind of duped him and that she's in this relationship with this other guy, and that's very on par for like her character, right?
Yeah.
I just really struggled to follow like what Ferdinand was doing after that and like his motivations. And when I was watching it, I was like, oh, he accidentally shot Marianne. And then I was reading afterwards, I was like, oh no, that was purposeful.
Yeah, like, you bitch.
Yeah.
Like,
and that didn't quite connect with me at first.
Yeah, like, I get what you mean. Like, there's a good 5 or 10 minutes where we're just kind of following Ferdinand around, and it's kind of like your best friend is drunk and shambling around the streets, and you're just like, what are you doing, man? Like, where are we going? Yeah. What's your plan?
Yeah. That kind of I struggled with, and, on a rewatch, like, obviously kind of knowing it and reading into some stuff, like, I'll understand that a little bit more, but that was the moment for me that I was really confused by, and then like I kind of snapped back in for the end, especially.
I mean, to be fair, like, a lot of movies kind of wobble around at the beginning of the third act. I mean, even Silence of the Lambs did that, but that's a much better movie. This movie's for no one. That movie's for everyone.
Yeah, exactly. So
I did like, there's one scene where they're kind of on this island or something, and like there's two animals with them. Like, he's got like a little parrot.
Yeah.
And she's got like a little fox or something, or a coyote. I think it's a fox. You're watching this scene and you're watching these two terrible people be terrible together, and you're just kind of like, oh, that's them, right?
Right.
They're these caged animals who really don't belong with each other, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or maybe anyone.
Or anyone, just like this movie. Should we talk about the play scene? Because that really was funny to me. So,
and again, like the backdrop to the play scene, like when they're desperate for money and then they go to do the play, and that's, like I said, this was my favorite frame of the movie, was as they're walking along the trees to go do that, and it's like this big wide shot, and they're like, okay, like, we're gonna go rob these tourists, and it just kind of becomes a plan of like, oh, let's do a play instead of just like, let's have some fun with this.
Yeah, kind of, right? And you know what, as a writer, I'm gonna say this play was fucking terrible.
What I loved about it, though, is as an English-speaking person who doesn't have any other languages under their belt.
No.
Like, there's something to kind of appreciate about this, because these are two people who, you know, despite being terrible people, are intelligent enough, and to put on this like crazy, insane play in a language that neither of them understands.
Yeah, with, by the way, just like truly spectacularly awful yellow face. Like, and she's doing these like really offensive, like,
It's pretty racist.
It's horribly racist approximation of like Asian speech.
Yeah, because it's kind of backdrop this, like, this is a Vietnam like production that they put on of like the Vietnam War, and he's like this American guy, and he basically, because he doesn't speak any English, which, you know, they kind of set up like early in the movie, right, when he's talking to the director and can't understand him at all, you know, he's kind of like, what is he, he's like, yeah like, because he doesn't know any English, right?
He's just making sounds.
Yeah,
I think the funniest part to me is like, there's 3 people watching. 2 of them don't like it, but there's like an American sailor there, who's clearly having the time of his life. Yeah, like even in English, he says something like, "That was pretty good."
Yeah,
like, so know your audience, I guess.
Yeah, and then after that, they just like steal all their money because these people don't want to pay for their insane,
terrible
play.
Excuse for a fucking play. Yeah, and fair enough.
No, I thought that was great. Like, and you know what, like, even as like kids, you kind of like will put on these like facades of like, because you don't really understand, right?
Yeah, I can remember you and me and our sisters doing pretty cringy shit like that.
Yeah, and so it kind of reminded me of that as well, of like these 2 people are just like so blissfully unaware of like their own stupidity.
Well, I think what's funny and also extra pathetic about these characters is that you're right, like, they're clearly both moderately intelligent. Like, if they actually applied themselves,
they're both very lazy people.
Yeah, that's what it really comes down to. You know, they don't want to commit to anything. Mm-hmm. Even what's-his-butt apparently has, you know, aspirations of being a writer, and I'm just like, I don't know that you can. Like, you're the kind of guy who can't stick with anything.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
So, I don't know. So yeah, they both suck, and that play sucked. Maybe we should talk about the other big thing that got my attention was towards the end when he has that weird conversation with that dude.
That was such a jarring scene for me.
Yeah, like it's towards the end of the movie. He encounters this like kind of fatter man in a suit.
Just sitting out by the pier.
Yeah, just like raging about some woman who broke his heart or something, and they have a really weird conversation about it. I'm curious to hear your interpretation of it, because I couldn't make heads or tails of it.
And well, because he's kind of saying like, "Oh, you don't hear that song like playing right now," and he's like, "It's the song that's playing constantly, and I can't get it out of my head. Like, it's everywhere I go, kind of thing, right?"
Yeah, and Ferdinand's kind of like,
I personally struggled with understanding why that was in there as well, but I don't know, maybe we can work this out together here.
Well, because Ferdinand's kind of like, I don't hear it, man, and the guy's like, no, you must hear it though, it's everywhere.
I guess just talking this out right now, like, I guess one interpretation maybe, you know, this is a callback to what we were just talking about a few minutes ago, but one of my favorite scenes in the movie when they're stealing the car and like there's the Thriller music playing as they think they're being cool, and then it just like hard cuts that music off, and it's just like the reality of their situation. Kind of almost picture, is it this guy who has this internal like hero mentality of like, oh, there's this song, like this great tragic song of my life playing over and over and over again.
But you can't hear it.
But you can't hear it because I'm the center of my own universe.
Kind of.
And I kind of almost wonder if that's what Goddard was trying with that scene.
I saw it more as more of like a condemnation of Ferdinand in the sense that like, there is this beautiful music and all these beautiful, wonderful experiences out there to be had in the world, but you can't hear it, right? Like, even has a line where he says, "You insensitive man, you missed the whole point." Like, and I was kind of like, yeah. And then he pretty much dies in the next scene.
Right.
So even though the guy's kind of framed as like a little deranged and off his rocker, I was kind of like, oh, even this crazy guy doesn't like him.
That was one I really struggled with, that understanding that scene.
Yeah, I don't know. It's hard. I guess I saw it more on like a spiritual level almost. Like,
yeah, I'm kind of thinking it's more again like one of those meta situations where it's like actually a direct reference to their relationship and like and how because they're so self-centered, they didn't really see the bigger picture of what they were doing in their actions.
Yeah, or maybe it's, like I'm interpreting it a certain way because I'm a writer, but like Ferdinand isn't a real artist because he can't hear the music behind everything, you know?
Right.
That's the whole point.
Oh, I forgot to say this earlier. When they go to rob the tourists, they call the tourists modern slaves. And I really liked that quote as well, because it made me start to think about that and what they meant by that, because it's so funny that these two characters have this very idealistic outlook of like their lives and you know how they could live their best lives by robbing from other people, and they call the tourists modern slaves because they're you know, like if you want to boil it down, they're accusing them of being slaves to the system, right?
Capitalism.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, well, yeah, but the way you're approaching life in anarchy is
It's worse.
Yeah.
Because you're actively hurting people.
Yeah.
You know what? If you were doing your own thing and whatever, and, you know, you found, you know, I'm kind of living the artist life right now, like just kind of working part-time and keeping my belt pretty tight and pursuing my art, whatever. But like, you know, they're actively robbing people, though.
Yeah.
If they were just doing their own thing, like, fine, whatever. Like, you got us. But it kind of just shows how immature and hypocritical these people are.
Yeah.
That's the whole point, and you missed it. Yeah.
You know what? The next time I watch this movie, because I actually think I'll come back to this one. There's just something there.
I didn't like it as much as Alphaville. You know, it's already kind of lukewarm on Alphaville.
Yeah.
But I think if I was going to rewatch one of the Goddard movies, it'd be this one.
Yeah. Funny enough, I think I would come back to this one, and I really liked Alphaville a lot. There's just something more here to dissect and crack. I'm kind of interested. Like, I watched this almost a week ago. You and I had some struggles kind of connecting on at the time.
Excuse me. I was good whenever.
I've had a busy week.
Yeah.
I kind of have had this movie bouncing around in the back of my head for the last week.
Yeah, it's had time to marinate a little.
Yeah,
you know,
there's just something there.
Which is a good and bad thing, but a good thing.
Yeah.
No, I know. Yeah, I think partly what I found compelling about this movie, as opposed to Alphaville, is that, like, you know, the heart of this movie is also the central conflict, and that's this fraught, destructive relationship. And there is something just inherently compelling about that.
Right.
You know, there's something inherently compelling about two people who think they're in love but are actually just hurting each other.
Yeah, they're in lust, essentially. Like,
yeah.
And they're both idealistic, and I think they both want something out of life, but they don't even know themselves what that is.
Yeah, and that's kind of like what's the real heartache, or maybe the real hardship of this movie is, that whole... I really like that. I like that a lot. It's like they want something out of life, but like they don't know what it is because they don't even really understand who they are.
Yeah.
And Ferdinand's like 40, you know?
Yeah.
Like, what do you mean you don't know what you want? You're fucking 40. Like...
Yeah, there's something tragic to that.
Yeah. No shade to our 40-year-old listeners who are still trying to figure it out, but like...
I think everybody's always trying to figure it out, right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't think if you have the answers, then you're probably...
What's that great line from The Princess Bride where it's like, no one can sell you happiness. If they do, they're trying to steal something from you. No, it's fuck. What's the line? It's a great line.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Fuck. I'm gonna remember as soon as we stop recording.
Yeah. And if anybody is, they're selling you something.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's from. Is that from Fezzik?
No, Man in Black. Wesley.
Oh, it is Wesley. Yeah, but it's right after that.
You know what's a fun fact? It's Fezzik's parents who have the line in the book.
What?
Yeah, Fezzik's parents spout that line in the book, but Wesley says it in the movie.
Huh.
Yeah, Fezzik's parents are in the book.
Huh.
Yeah.
Interesting.
The more
I still
you know.
haven't read it yet. It's sitting right behind you, and I need to read it. There is something about their relationship, too. Like, I was reading some interpretations of the movie, and there was one interpretation of why Ferdinand kills himself at the end, and why he kills Marianne. And it's not because, like, she kind of duped him in this relationship and that she's actually in love with somebody else. The core crux of it is his identity has become so entangled with hers.
Yeah.
And like, he needs her because without her, like, she's kind of the enabler to be able to live this life of like not really, living in a structured life and just being able to write and like try to be an artist kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
Because there is something romantic about being on an island with
living
somebody.
off the grid.
Yeah, and
like,
just writing full time.
And she's like a younger, beautiful woman.
Yeah.
Like his muse, so to speak. Yeah. They're so codependent at this point that he can't function without her.
Yeah, and so it's kind of like, again, it's a little bit self-destructive in a sense.
Oh, yeah.
That him killing her. And again, it's like immediately after he does it, like he carries her and like he picks her up and he carries her to the bed and like he's like almost like trying to like heal her kind of thing, but he's Ferdinand, he's incapable of anything.
Sorry, Ferdinand.
Yeah.
You kind of fucking suck, bud. So, yeah, and I think what's even sadder is just going off something you said a minute ago. Like, I don't think Marianne is actually in love with this other guy because I don't think either of them are genuinely capable of loving anyone. And that's, I think, part like maybe the real tragedy behind the scenes.
Yeah, like Marianne uses people.
Yeah, and so does he. They're just kind of...
Yep.
They've spent a lot of time using each other, and now they're done.
Well, she's done.
Yeah, right?
I don't know that he was quite done with her yet. Although this movie does something, nearing the third act where I found it really interesting that, they kind of circle back to this crime syndicate and like her being discovered by them again and her kind of like saying, you know what, I'll take care of this, like don't worry about it, and then calling him up and being like, you know what, actually I need your help.
I fucked this up.
Yeah, and it's not until like at that point in time that she asks for help from him until she's in dire straits. And even then, she kind of just runs away and does her own thing for a little bit. And he is really distraught at this point. And like, there's that really great scene where he goes to kill himself in front of the train, and then he can't even do that, right?
Yeah, I forgot about the train scene.
Yeah, he gets up because he sells her out too, right? Like,
yeah. Well, to be fair, they waterboarded him pretty hard.
Yeah, that's wild. I can't believe that got included in there.
You know what's funny? When they first started waterboarding him, I was like, this doesn't look so bad. I'd probably survive. But after a minute, I'm like, never mind. This is pretty horrific.
Waterboarding's like one of the craziest torture methods that you can endure.
Yeah.
And he plays it off really coolly. And that's kind of, I think, just Jean-Paul as an actor, just like there's something really cool about him.
Yeah, despite everything.
Waterboarding's like really scary.
Yeah, it simulates drowning, and that's like one of the worst ways to go.
Yeah, exactly, right?
Yikes.
So
yeah.
So he gives her up pretty quickly, but after that, like he feels like immediately remorseful for it for a time, and then he kind of just picks up an odd job, right? Like he suddenly becomes a deckhand on some private yacht, right?
Pretty much, yeah.
Which is a really interesting scene even of itself. Like there's this old woman that he's helping, and she's like talking about how, she's the queen of this other country, but she's in exile, and she's kind of talking about like how, I don't even remember what exactly she says, but she's talking about like how all of her riches and she can't go back and all of this stuff. And it kind of almost, just thinking about this now, is almost like a reflection of Ferdinand as well.
A little bit, yeah, because like he seemed comfortably well off.
Yeah,
even though he was unemployed back home.
Yeah, super interesting. Like it's one of those movies where like you kind of just pull on different little threads, and you kind of sit there and you're like, I wonder what he was going for with that.
Yeah, it's kind of like to use a literary term, it's very picaresque, where it's just kind of there's no real structure. You're just kind of wandering around following these characters as they have. It's kind of like these other characters show up, but these other characters are on their own little journeys, so we only get little snapshots of them.
What do you think about the fourth wall breaks?
They made the movie more incomprehensible. Usually with fourth wall breaks, they kind of add like a distancing effect. Like they remind you like, oh yeah, this is fictitious. This is fictional, right? I'm kind of still chewing on it, to be honest, because it's like you do that kind of thing deliberately if you want to slightly alienate your audience, right?
Okay.
So I'm like, is this just again, calling attention to the nature of stories and storytelling themselves.
I almost wonder if it's more of like the narcissistic tendencies that these two characters had, that they feel like actively being watched at all times, like there's an active audience following them.
Yeah, though there's this thing in psychology called like what, the audience delusion or something.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I don't know. It's like this idea that you're being watched, but you're not. Shut
Right.
up.
Yeah.
So that's an interesting take. It's like these people are so narcissistic that they love being characters in a story.
And that's kind of what my take was on it. Especially I was rewatching it before you came again because I wanted to watch the fourth wall breaks again to kind of see if I could kind of crack the code.
Yeah.
Especially when they're in the car and she's like, "Who are you talking to?" And he's like, "The audience."
Yeah.
And she turns around and looks at us and she's like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah, you're like, oh yeah, shit. I think I need to see that again too. I'm still kind of chewing on that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was fun though.
This is a kind of movie where I don't think anybody's gonna have all the answers for it. Like I don't know that Jean-Luc Goddard
No,
have all the answers for this
I'm
movie.
sure he doesn't. No, I really latched on to like the destructive relationship between these two.
Right.
That's something that interests me. But
And I think that's like, it's not apparent at first, or it doesn't feel as apparent at first. I think you almost have to see the whole thing to really kind of grasp at that.
Yeah,
I think for me, it just became like, this movie became like such a meta, like fascinating film about movies and about like characters in films, and how like the unreality of movies almost as well.
the surreality. I think it kind of adds to like the dreamlike effect of the movie too.
Yeah.
You're just like, whoa, all right.
Yeah, and again, I call back to it, but it's just one of the scenes that like really boggled my mind was when they were stealing the car and the music keeps cutting in and out. Like just calling back
Yeah.
to that of like, there's such a stark contrast between reality and what we see on our screens, basically.
Yeah, and I mean, thank God, right? Because reality is so incomprehensible and and kind of boring a lot of the time.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, and that's something that kind of, it creeps into their relationship at a point, right? Is the mundality of it all.
Yeah, and like, maybe that's the real test of a relationship is if you can survive the mundanity of it.
Mhm.
I don't know that mundanity is a word, but it is now. So, and they clearly can't.
Yeah.
Maybe, yeah, I think I kind of get what you're saying, right? It's like they're seeing themselves as Bonnie and Clyde, as these heroes,
Yeah.
sort of. But
Which is really what this movie kind of wants you to think, especially in the first act, right?
Right, yeah. Well, there's even a moment where, what's her face? Marianne says, like, this isn't a film. Bitch, yes it is. So yeah, it's like, you don't do things like that unless you're deliberately fucking with the audience.
Right.
Yeah, there's something there.
Yeah, definitely. I like that Goddard having his own like in-universe kind of idea, like the flashing cinema sign kind of being like Alphaville having the EMC squared or whatever equals MC squared, and then there was another sign that they had. But anyway, there's kind of that cinema. I kind of got this one a little bit more in this movie than I did in the other one. Like for me, that was a callback, like a direct callback to that first scene in the movie where one of the first scenes in the movie where he has the conversation with the director. And I was like, oh, this is a movie about movies in a sense. And this is a movie about this movie almost, right? Like there's something weird and cyclical about it.
Yeah, it's like, what are you guys doing? Yeah.
That one was super clear to me, or I felt like it was more clear to me than in Alphaville.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree. I think that's about all I had for like the actual text of the movie.
Was there any other quotes that you had about the movie that you really liked or latched onto? I had a couple others, like
Okay, hit me with yours.
Ferdinand had this quote of "Poetry is a game of loser take all," which I really, really loved. Like that one,
Yeah.
as soon as I heard that, I was like, "That's an amazing quote."
Tight, yeah.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Like whoever the biggest loser is the best at writing poetry.
He might be onto something. I've known a few poets.
Well, and I was kind of thinking about that, and I was like, like the most damaged people are usually the ones who write like the best music and who are like the best artists. Like, and it's so funny too because Ferdinand thinks of himself as this like horribly damaged person, as this person who just like feels so lost in his life. But prior to the events of this movie, he's living an all right life. Like he's got a his wife might be kind of irritated with him, but that's fair.
Yeah, I mean, I'm irritated with you, Ferdinand, and I barely know you.
And like he seems to be living like a pretty
I think there's even a reference to like her dad. I think his father-in-law's rich.
Yeah.
I think
yes.
Yeah, there's something about that, right?
Yeah, because her brother is supposed to be offering him a job with the family business, and she's like, you have to take it. Like, you don't have an option with me.
Yeah, right. You're not as damaged as you think you are. And again, I keep coming back to, you're not nearly as talented as you think you are either.
Yeah, that's exactly it, right? Like he kind of thinks that almost thinks that the world owes him something, but in a way it's like
it's entitlement.
Yeah.
It's the worst kind of entitlement.
It's a very specific type of entitlement. I can't quite put my finger on it, but because it's not like a normal entitled person might be like, well, yeah, you know what, that job that your family's going to get me, like, I deserve it, or like that's mine just by right kind of thing, right? But that's not really the entitlement that he has. And you know what, and even in like the scene after that where they go to that party, like there's a famous director at this party. Like, they're hanging out with like some probably pretty well off people.
Yeah, what are you fucking complaining about, Ferdinand? Your life is pretty okay.
Yeah,
you're fine.
Yeah,
And
I find it really interesting as well. Like, these two are almost like so fascinated by their own notoriety. Like, they're constantly like wondering, oh, who's going to be after them, and like, where's the police and all that. Like, there's even a point in time where one of them says like, oh, like, why aren't the police following us, or why haven't the police gotten us yet? And the other one's like, oh, they're just waiting for us to make a mistake or something like that. Kind of thing.
Really.
It's like, you know what? People might actually care about you two all that much.
Just the pure immaturity of these characters, right?
Yeah.
Like, you two both should have grown out of this a long time ago.
Mm-hmm. The other one, and we kind of mentioned this as well, is like when they're having a conversation with each other and the reality of their relationship and like what it's built on kind of becomes apparent. Ferdinand says to her, I can never have a real conversation with you. You never have ideas, only feelings. And Marianne says back to him, that's not true. These ideas are feelings.
Yeah, I like that as well.
There are ideas in feelings, sorry.
Yeah.
And again, it's just like so apparent that these two people are just so incompatible with each other. And yet their narcissism works so well together that for a period of time, it does seem to be like they're a perfect match.
Functionally dysfunctional, if only for a very specific time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So those were the quotes. We also like talked about the film is a battleground quote. Like, that one really stuck with me. When they're singing, I really wish that I remembered what they were singing. I'm going to have to look that up really quick. Yeah, so when they're kind of talking about like why they haven't been caught yet, and Ferdinand says, I wonder what's keeping the cops. We should be in jail by now. Marianne's reply is, they're smart. They let people destroy themselves.
Oh, yeah.
Which is not true at all. It's just like the people who are willing to kind of commit crimes and live outside of the law are the people who are also just like inherently self-destructive.
We were talking about this recently when we were watching a movie. It's kind of like, really, the most destructive people on the planet aren't necessarily evil. They're just breathtakingly stupid.
Yeah. This isn't really like anything really probably to read into too much, but there's kind of a musical number in this movie where Anna Karina sings My Luck Line. It's kind of just like the movie kind of just pauses for these two characters to have like a little song together. And for whatever reason, I really, really liked it. I think Anna Karina also has like a very beautiful voice.
Yeah.
I think that's part
on
of
top of everything else about her that's beautiful.
Yeah. Like I said, she's like absolutely electric. To me, it didn't feel like it added a lot to the movie, and yet it was super important to my enjoyment of the film. So sequels, prequels, or reboots. This is actually based on a 1962 book called Obsession by Lionel White, who's actually an American guy.
Interesting.
Yeah, he
really?
went by the pen name L.W. Blanco.
No, seriously, what was his pen name?
What's your pen name, guy?
Hey.
So he actually was a crime reporter and then was writing suspense novels in the 50s, and he published 35 books by the looks of it.
Holy cats.
What I found interesting about this, and I mentioned Tarantino in the primer episode, but his writing is actually a direct inspiration to Tarantino. Like, he cited Lionel White's writing as inspiration for Reservoir Dogs.
Interesting. Okay, so It's the French Connection.
And funny enough, he also had another famous book and movie adaptation, and that was The Killing, which is one of Stanley Kubrick's first movies.
I've seen part of that movie. The
I
Killing.
haven't seen it.
It's kind of interesting.
Yeah, I don't know that Kubrick's early movies are all that well known because, especially because he didn't have Final Cut, I don't think, on his first 3-4 movies, and so they're not as well revered over time as the ones that he did keep Final Cut on. But my goal is at some point to finish the whole Kubrick filmography. I like watching maybe one a year, one new one a year, because they're just to me they're just such high art. Kubrick's one of my favorite directors of all time.
You got to savor it.
Yeah, to finish his filmography feels almost like I'm at the end of something, you know?
Yeah, I know what you mean. Because then it's there's no more Kubrick movies until AI takes over.
Yeah, or I rewatch The Substance.
Also that.
But yeah, no, I thought that was really cool that there's kind of that connection in multiple ways to Tarantino and his filmography. Effects and filming. So I found it interesting that Goddard noted that because of who he cast in this movie, having Anna Karina and Jean-Paul Belmondo, that kind of changed the direction of the film. And, very famously, Goddard didn't have scripts before he started movies. He would him and the actors would kind of just figure it out. I think they'd have a brief outline of what they wanted. And a lot of the dialogue was improvised. And the original book was a little bit more this older man meets this really young woman who is maybe 19, 20, and then they go off on this crazy crime spree. A lot more, the reference he brought up was Lolita, which is a Kubrick film adaptation. When he ended up with these two actors, he kind of changed it to be more what he called the last romantic couple, and said that it's more of a descendant of, his references were La Nouvelle Heloise, Werther and Herman, and Dorothea.
Okay, I'm not really familiar with any of those.
No, probably classic French novels that is just way outside of our scope.
Yeah, sorry, that's not within scope, fellas.
But, I actually think that probably elevated this movie for me as well. The original idea was a trope that I've seen before, and, I think that's one of those classic, almost tragedies of the older man kind of reckoning with his imminent death. And is that even in this movie, or is that in another movie I was recently watching? I can't remember now, where it's all you older men are just the same. I think it's this movie where Marianne basically is you're all just reckoning with your own demises, and that makes you all so boring. Because...
Yeah, I think that was her.
Yeah. Oh, and here's the reference here, that it was critic Richard Brody who said that because Marianne is intrinsically connected to Ferdinand and his passion for writing and his passion to create art, that when she betrays him, it's not only a betrayal of this romance, but it's also a destruction of what he considered to be his own life work, which is such a I think that's such a deep take, and that just kind of really snapped the third act into focus for me as well.
Yeah, I concur. I agree.
I love this because Goddard kind of, there's this mythology around him. The more I read about him, the more I kind of read about the mythology around him. But I thought this was really interesting that a week before they started production on this, he actually had a panic attack because he realized that what he was planning on filming for this was just not going to work anymore.
Oh no.
They he kind of had to throw it all out and figure it out on the fly, which is usually what he is. I think you know what, you kind of you can romanticize that a little bit, but I almost wonder if he was a bit of a procrastinator and he just kind of wung it just because that's all he could do.
I mean, there might be something to that,
Yeah.
The heat of the moment. We've all done that with term papers.
And there are people who are elevated in that moment. And that's not me. I'm a plan ahead, get something done a week before the deadline and not have to worry about it. Be stressed out a week before the deadline so that I'm not stressed an hour before the deadline. I can be calm and collected at that moment.
Yeah. That is you.
There are other people who like literally fly by the seat of their pants, and like I can't understand that. So Goddard is like the opposite, the anti like how I would direct a movie, basically.
Yeah, he's more the Stephen King kind of approach. Burn it all away. Just go boldly forward and don't care if you land on your face.
Yeah,
because you will.
And so they filmed this over 2 months, most of it taking place in the French Riviera. Is where they filmed like a lot of those scenes on the island and that sort of thing.
Right.
They filmed it in reverse order. So they filmed like the end bit in Paris at the end and then finished editing and everything, the movie in Paris.
Okay.
But it's interesting that they filmed it in reverse.
Yeah.
Especially like knowing how little script and how little dialogue would have been written for this and how much this would have been ad-libbed, right? Like you kind of start as two characters who one has killed the other and then committed suicide.
There might be something to that, though, artistically. Like, at least knowing how you're ending, if not necessarily knowing how you're going to get there.
And then kind of following backwards, like how these two characters began such this fiery romance between each other and this destructive, like, path that they go on.
Yeah.
There is something to that. I almost wonder if, like, you know, you cut this like a Strange Darling kind of way, if that could be interesting as well to kind of spectate that. Where
well,
it's
Blake, I think you can add that to your list of editing projects.
Oh man, there's too many of those. Oh, I forgot to mention too the Goddard verse. I've penned it the Goddard verse.
Okay.
The other kind of things that I didn't mention were the fact that the Ford Galaxy comes up again.
Oh yeah, it does.
Yeah, it does. And then again, it's just so poetry heavy. Like Goddard must have been a huge poetry guy.
Yeah, well, he was French.
I didn't write anything down about the score, but again, I love the musical number. I loved the score and how it was cut in interweb in the story, and how again it's very meta to the story. So I didn't really have too much to say there. Look back at the times. The other thing I wanted to mention was when they go to the gas station and he says, "Put a tiger in my engine," which is really funny. Like there's nothing deeper there at this point, but back in the 60s there was an Esso advertising campaign that promised that their gas would put a tiger in your
engine.
Yeah.
Okay.
But the funny thing is, the reason why it's funny in this scene is because he's actually at Total gas station, which is the rival of Esso in France at the time. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's kind of like
that's a deep cut.
Yeah. So it's a deep cut, but thinking about that, I was like, I wish I had understood that more now, because it adds another layer to the character Ferdinand, where he's kind of a prick. Like, you know, like
just kind of a bit rude.
Yeah, a little bit rude. Just a little bit off-putting.
Yeah. Kind of respected.
There was also, like, in reading about this, like, there's a lot of historical French references that Goddard was referencing in this movie, like dozens. Like, he's kind of the Tarantino of just, like, references, but because, you know, we're over 60 years removed from this movie, and, you know, some of Goddard's, like, references were probably 40, 50, 60 years old at that point. Like, I just didn't dive into those. Like, if you're if there's anybody still listening at this point and you're super passionate about that, like, by all means get into that stuff.
But remember, this movie is not for you.
There's like one person still listening and they're like, yeah, this movie rocks.
Yeah, okay. Well, God bless that person. Wait, mom? It's not my mom.
And the legacy of this movie, so it is part of the Criterion Collection. It's number 421, and it's also one of Oliver Stone's favorite movies.
You know what? I could see it. I don't know much about Oliver Stone, but I can definitely see it.
Yeah, we've done Platoon on this Platoon on this podcast, which is a movie that both you and I were both like, that was amazing, and I never want to see it again.
I forgot about that. Yeah. It's not on my top 100, I'll tell you that much.
Not on my top 100 either. Spoilers.
Super spoilery.
But, yeah, so personal reviews and the partner factor. I don't know. I'll start. I like this movie a lot. I find it really hard to navigate at times, but it's like, you know, this is a piece of art, and I don't think that any piece of art should fully speak to you or fully even speak to you the same way that it spoke to the artist. Like, art is meant to be interpreted, and I think that's what you and I have done on this episode, is tried our best to interpret this work of art.
I would agree, yeah. I don't think I was as high on this as you were, as is often the case with these types of movies. Mm-hmm. My partner actually really liked it, though.
Really?
She really liked it, actually, more than I did.
Wow.
So
that's super cool.
That is cool.
I like your partner. I haven't met her yet, but I now have
you
so
like
much more appreciation for her.
Okay, great. I'll let her know. So
That's really cool. You know what? Maybe at some point I will watch this with Jess because I wasn't sure. Like again, Alphaville was not a Jess movie, and this one might connect with her more. But again, this movie is so bizarre that I'm really surprised that she enjoyed it.
I was too, actually.
Did she elaborate at all? Like, did you pick her brain?
Not really. She just kind of said she enjoyed it quite a bit, and she's glad she watched it.
Cool.
Yeah,
cool.
She liked it.
That's awesome. I guess the one thing that I didn't talk about as much as I wanted to was how the ending of this movie to me was like perfect. Like I don't know that there was a better ending to this movie
than that fucking asshole wrapping dynamite around his head, then blowing himself up
by accident.
Yeah,
I
know.
Like regretting it and being like, "Oh, what am I doing? I'm such an idiot."
Yeah.
There's something so bleak and funny at the same time about it. Like, it's maybe one of my favorite movie endings of all time now.
I would agree. Like, it's almost worth it for the ending.
Yeah.
Even though this movie's not for you. So
I was so blown away by how great it was. As it ended up, I just sat there like a grinning idiot at the end of that. Like, that was amazing.
It's not something I'll forget.
Yeah.
I'll forget everything else about this movie except for that fucking ending.
I've already asked you this, but do you think you'll come back to this one?
I think I will, but not for a long time. Well, I'll have to recover my Apple account again, and it'll be a whole thing, but yeah, I think I will come back to it in the end. I don't think I'm coming back to Alphaville, but I think I'm coming back to this one.
Yeah, and I think I said that earlier too, but I think this one has more rewatchability than Alphaville does.
I would concur with that, yeah.
I'm really high on this movie. It's not going to make my top 100 just because of maybe recency, but I need to watch this one again. I feel compulsively a need to rewatch this.
You feel compelled to rewatch it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So on that note as well, segueing over to our next episode being our top 100 movies, the start of that. Are you excited?
I am excited. It's time for our top 100.
I'm really excited as well. There's something feels super important.
It feels kind of like if we were going to stop I'm not saying we are, but if we were going to stop the podcast, this would be kind of a grand finale.
Yeah.
Maybe this will be the end of Act 1 of our podcast.
Yeah. I like that.
Yeah.
It's like we've been building towards this. This is our Avengers Assemble episode.
Yeah. I guess we'll get into it more in the time that it happens.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that was a fucking sentence, but no, yeah, actually compiling my list was fun. And actually it surprised me a little bit. The top 30 surprised me. Things shifted around a little bit.
And as it should be. I think my list is still very fluid, and I think that there's still a lot of movement. I watched a movie this week that I went, oh, that's higher than I think it actually is right now on my list.
Mm-hmm.
And so I kind of moved some things around and shifted I actually shifted a lot of things around. But my top 30 feels pretty solid at this point. I actually don't know if I've decided which is my number one movie of all time.
Oh, shit.
Wild.
So it's going to come in clutch. Well,
yeah.
I mean, if you're a regular listener and you're not, you probably already know what my top 100 my number one is, just because I've said it a few times, and that hasn't really changed.
I'm very organized, but I'm also paralyzed by decision, so.
Okay. Well, I'm very disorganized and have a habit of just rushing into things. So
if Jason was doing the episode with us, he can't because we don't have enough time to do 300
movies. Yeah.
But
crap.
If we were doing a top 100 and Jason was doing it, he would be literally adding the movies as we went.
Yeah, no, yeah, that's why we love Jason. Yeah. He would actually be compiling the list on the fly. Yeah.
So be excited for that. You and I are both seem really excited about it, and I definitely have some preamble that we'll talk about when we start the episode, because I have lots of interesting thoughts and questions for you about how you compiled your list, but let's save it for next week.
Yeah, absolutely.
Tell your dad not to watch this movie. Yep. And we'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.